are now in the black box. Whoa. With Spider Loke, Most Easty, aka BJ Keyway, and the Google Gang. Let's go!
Listen. Gratitude is the attitude. Show is a blessing. To be back in the black box. Black box.
Relax, roll up as we randomly react to content in these YouTube streets. Yeah. It's time for R&R.
Smack with that hustle. Big shout out to my SPR, Spotter Low. You know, I'm in the black box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.
All that and then some until the end come. Hit the YouTube streets. Find a corner and been one. And we've arrived here. Y'all see the title. I just expect this story to be crazy on my mama. So with no further ado, let's see what this female inmate and the prison warden have been up to. Be careful where you stick your...
The Milwaukee Women's Correctional Facility in Wisconsin operated under standard Department of Corrections procedures. Inmates rose at 6 a.m., head counts followed at 7 o'clock, and assigned labor began at 8 o'clock. Daily routines rarely shifted, and staff emphasized compliance and uniformity. Into this environment, on April 14, 2017, arrived 25-year-old Jalisa Barnes. She had been transferred from the Waukesha County Jail after conviction for felony-level financial fraud involving falsified loan applications and identity misuse. Barnes had no history of violent crimes. She was described in county reports as quiet, observant, and able to adapt quickly to institutional structure. Barnes was assigned to Unit C, a mid-capacity block that housed both short-term and long-term offenders. She shared a cell with 29-year-old Nina Carter, who was serving a 12-year sentence for armed robbery at a convenience store in Kenosha. Carter had already served 5 years at the facility and understood its internal hierarchy. Early observations recorded by correctional officers noted Barnes as polite, compliant, and attentive to staff instructions. However, according to Carter's later testimony, Barnes spent her first weeks not only adjusting but also carefully studying staff behavior, schedules, and interactions. She identified inconsistencies in guard rotations and noted locations with minimal surveillance. The warden of the facility at that time was Kenneth R. Wallace, 40 years old, employed in corrections for nearly 2 decades. His professional record showed steady promotion from line officer to administrative leadership. Wallace was considered competent by official accounts, though internally
he started that shit fresh out of high school.
Some staff described his management as favoring certain inmates with preferable assignments. The deputy warden was 44-year-old Raymond Deal, a former correctional sergeant with a reputation for aggressive enforcement. Deal's disciplinary record included multiple inmate complaints of excessive force, none substantiated by formal investigations. Carter would later testify that Barnes disclosed an important detail within the first month of her arrival: she was HIV positive. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos.
If she said it off top, I know he didn't steal. Nah.
Barnes explained she had contracted the virus not through intravenous drug use but following a sexual assault in Alabama in 2015, an incident documented by a police report though never resulting in prosecution. Barnes stated clearly she did not want sympathy, but that she carried a sense of purpose shaped by her diagnosis. She told Carter, "I don't want pity. I want balance." The statement would later be interpreted as an indication of intent toward retaliation against perceived abuses of authority. During May 2017, Barnes submitted a request for reassignment from kitchen duty to the library detail. The role involved cataloging, shelving, and limited clerical support. It offered more autonomy and less direct oversight compared with food service. The request was approved directly by Warden Wallace, bypassing standard review by unit staff. Records show Wallace signed the reassignment on May 19. Within 1 week of the transfer, Wallace began making frequent visits to the library under the pretext of inventory checks and policy updates. Staff logs show his presence there on at least 6 occasions during late May and early June, often during times not associated with official administrative business. Conversations between Wallace and Barnes gradually expanded from logistical topics to personal matters. According to Carter, Barnes described the interactions as deliberate on her part. She portrayed herself as cooperative, guarded, and respectful, while allowing Wallace to perceive her as vulnerable. Wallace, accustomed to control and authority, reportedly misinterpreted this as trust and emotional connection. Carter later recalled telling Barnes, "You're baiting him," to which Barnes replied, "No. I'm letting him walk into it himself." At that stage, no allegations of coercion or physical contact were made, but the groundwork for inappropriate boundary crossing had been established. Throughout this period, Barnes maintained an outwardly calm demeanor. Correctional staff evaluations in June still recorded her as compliant and non-problematic. Yet within her personal writings, later recovered by investigators, Barnes noted dates of Wallace's visits, specific phrases he used, and patterns in his behavior. These entries were recorded in a small spiral-bound notebook she kept among her personal effects. At the time, staff were unaware of its significance. By July 2017, Wallace's presence in the library had become regular enough that other inmates noticed. Reports later collected from witnesses indicated he spent extended periods alone with Barnes under the pretense of checking records. His deputy, Deal, was observed entering the library only rarely, but staff testimony suggested he was aware of Wallace's involvement with Barnes. Deal reportedly dismissed comments from other officers, instructing them not to question administrative oversight. By June 2017, less than 1 month after her reassignment to the library, patterns in Warden Kenneth Wallace's conduct were clear. Facility logs documented his presence in the library during at least 8 separate shifts, often staying beyond routine administrative needs. Other inmates noted the increased contact. Staff did not intervene, either out of deference to Wallace's authority or lack of formal evidence. What began with brief exchanges about book management expanded into discussions of personal matters. Wallace spoke of marital strain, professional exhaustion, and feelings of insignificance outside his workplace. Barnes, positioned as a listener, encouraged him through questions and sympathetic acknowledgement. According to testimony later provided by Nina Carter, Barnes described the encounters in detail. Carter recalled confronting her cellmate, "You're baiting him." Barnes denied intentional entrapment, responding, "I'm letting him walk into it himself." By mid-June,
Didn't he just say that twice? Am I tripping?
Wallace escalated the relationship further. On June 17th, in the stacks of the library, he initiated physical contact with Barnes. Within days, he arranged for her to enter his private office under the pretense of clerical filing. During that encounter, sexual activity occurred. Though not involving overt force,
Got that hot pocket. That real hot pocket.
the circumstances presented a clear imbalance of authority and lack of genuine consent. In institutional terms, such conduct is classified as staff sexual misconduct. Barnes anticipated developments of this kind. She began documenting the relationship systematically. In a spiral-bound notebook, she recorded dates, phrases, and gestures made by Wallace. Her entries were consistent, written in precise script. Beyond written notes, she acquired contraband tools to create independent evidence. She used a disposable camera, hidden among donated library materials, to take photographs of Wallace in proximity to her. She also obtained a small flash drive through undisclosed means.
Female put tats on her face. That says a lot. Just that says a lot. Oh, my mama.
Enabling her to store short audio recordings. She shared the existence of these materials with Carter and instructed her cellmate where they were hidden in the event something happened. While Wallace continued the relationship, the facility's medical director, Dr. Malik Thompson, raised concerns. On June 22nd, he sent an internal memorandum to Wallace regarding patient Barnes, noting her confirmed HIV-positive status and stressing the need for discretion and compliance with health protocols.
She was only 5'1", a little bitty thing.
A second memorandum followed on July 3rd, repeating the warning and emphasizing administrative liability should violations occur. Wallace did not acknowledge either memo in writing. Instead, he ignored the directives and continued direct contact with Barnes. When Thompson confronted Barnes in person, warning her of the risks, she responded, "You're not my priest. Just keep doing your job."
What the f wrong with him? he got some. He got some other issues.
Her remarks suggested full awareness of the consequences of Wallace's disregard. On July 15th, Wallace received confirmation through private testing that he himself had contracted HIV. Rather than notify the Department of Corrections or disclose the situation to supervisors, he kept the results hidden. Medical records later obtained during the investigation verified his diagnosis from an independent clinic in Milwaukee. Instead of following institutional procedures, Wallace summoned Barnes to his office 2 days later. Witness statements and Barnes's own notes confirmed the confrontation. During the meeting, Wallace accused Barnes directly and demanded an explanation. Barnes remained composed. According to her notes, she told him, "You knew. You didn't care. But now you do, because it's you." She then presented him with a sealed envelope containing threats of disclosure. Inside were copies of selected journal entries and references to photographic and audio evidence.
She knew he was gonna flip it on her. What was wrong with this fool? He knew it wasn't no good. Still did it. Now you mad? That's crazy.
Barnes warned that if Wallace attempted to touch her again or retaliate, she would ensure the material reached his spouse, his employer, and unspecified external recipients.
She tried to cover her ass. She thought she was on her tip. But, judging from the title, all right.
Her statement placed Wallace in a compromised position, as disclosure would expose both his misconduct and the institutional failures surrounding inmate protection. Wallace was reportedly unable to respond effectively. He allowed Barnes
My bad. Well, she more like 5'3", huh? Yeah.
to leave his office without disciplinary action or further contact at that time. For Barnes, the exchange represented a shift in leverage. She no longer operated solely as a target of authority but as someone holding documented evidence against the highest-ranking officer in the facility. For Wallace, the event marked the beginning of concealment, coercion, and eventual collapse of professional standing. By the end of July 2017, the situation had escalated from boundary violations to documented sexual misconduct, confirmed medical risk, and direct blackmail threats. Barnes had secured evidence, shared its location with a reliable witness, and confronted Wallace openly. Wallace, in turn, concealed his diagnosis, ignored administrative directives, and placed himself in a position of vulnerability to exposure. In August 2017, after Barnes confronted Warden Wallace with evidence and threats of disclosure, his response shifted from engagement to containment. Records from that period indicate that Barnes was reassigned from the library to laundry duty, a position considered less desirable due to heavier workloads and closer supervision. Official paperwork listed the reassignment as operational necessity, but staff later testified that Wallace ordered it directly. Alongside the change, Barnes received a series of vague disciplinary warnings for alleged attitude and noncompliance.
It's crazy because in the Bible, David did a lot of scheming and scamming similar to this dude after a indiscreet sexual encounter. David was the king, and he was looking out his window. He used to see this woman named Bathsheba bathing, and he wanted her. Even though he had many wives and concubines, this was one man's wife, and she had one husband. They were in a regular monogamous marriage. And David, the king, who had everything, wanted this woman, and he sent for the woman, and he slept with her. while her husband was out fighting a battle for his country at war. And so while he was out fighting the war, David was run up and his wife got her pregnant. Now here's the scandal. That would have been terrible. She couldn't have the king's baby. So David got to scheming. He said, damn, what could I do? He sent message out to the battlefield, like, tell dude he got a 2-week pass. He get a timeout on war that he could go back to the battle. So David felt like, shit, he'll come home, fuck on his wife, get her pregnant, and then 9 months later when she had his baby, nobody had tripped. They figured he got her pregnant when he came home on that break. But fool was such a loke. Cuz came home, and when the king said, look, I heard you been out there kicking ass. You get a 2-week pass. Go lay with your family, then you can get back with your with the battle. Dude was like, man, how am I gonna lay in my home, comforts of my home, when my homies is out there dying and killing and riding? He said, I can't do it, king. So he said, I'd rather sleep on the porch of my house or the porch of the king's steps than go home and lay in my bed while my men out there fighting. So David was like, God damn, this a real good nigga. So just think he running up in the wife of that type of man. So his next plot was, shit, since he won't go fuck on his wife, only thing I could think of next was he said, all right, send him back out to battle, but this time put him on the front line of battle so we can almost guarantee or ensure his death. And lo and behold, the man died. And just shortly after that story in the Bible, guess what happened? The Bible calls David a man after God's own heart. I bullshit you not.
Though no serious violations were documented, correctional officers were instructed to increase monitoring of her movements. Wallace's intention appeared to be the reassertion of control. However, the measures did not remove the threat posed by the evidence Barnes had compiled. Deputy Warden Raymond Deal began to take notice. Unlike Wallace, whose methods involved administrative maneuvering, Deal had a reputation for direct and forceful tactics. Multiple inmates later described him as hostile and intimidating, with a history of unrecorded confrontations. Staff logs show that on August 11, 2017, Barnes was summoned from her unit to the administrative wing. Surveillance records confirm her movement from Unit C at 2:43 p.m. to the corridor outside an internal room unofficially known among inmates as the Quiet Cell. Facility maintenance logs from that date also confirmed that the hallway camera malfunctioned at 2:45 p.m. and remained inactive for approximately 1 hour. No explanation was provided at the time. The Quiet Cell, according to later investigation, was an interrogation room without windows and lacking functioning audio or video surveillance. Its existence was known among inmates but rarely documented in official records. On the day in question, Wallace positioned himself behind a glass partition while Deal conducted the session. Accounts reconstructed from Carter's testimony and Barnes's recovered notes describe the exchange. Deal began with verbal intimidation, leaning over the table and asking, "You think you're smart?" Barnes remained silent. He continued, "You think you're going to bring this place down with your little game?" Barnes eventually responded, he brought it down himself. "I just documented the fall." This statement, recorded in her journal beforehand as a prepared remark,
And I'm starting to wonder if this is a real life story, man. This starting to sound like some soap opera made up bush. Oh, my. They having too much of the dialogue in the story. It sounds like a novel story. Y'all let me know what you think. I think we got hoodwinked. Oh, my.
was the last known verbal exchange before violence occurred. According to Deal's later confession, he struck Barnes in the face, knocking her backward. He then used a shoelace from a facility-issued boot to strangle her.
Yeah, this shit's Hollywood. Oh, blah.
Wallace, standing behind the glass, made no attempt to intervene. The assault lasted several minutes, ending with Barnes unresponsive on the floor. Medical personnel were not called. Instead, staff logs indicate Barnes was returned to her unit at 3:22 p.m.
They showing these real people pictures, though, man. Somebody research, look up this story, because I didn't do it. You got to do it for me. Just help me out, please. Oh, blah. I'm just curious now.
No official notation was made of the intervening period. By the following morning, August 12th, she was found dead in her cell during the 6 a.m. head count. The official incident report listed the cause as suicide by hanging, citing a shoelace recovered near the bunk. The body showed ligature marks consistent with strangulation, but these details were attributed in the report to self-inflicted injury.
A human body, is my belief, would snap a shoestring. The weight and the pressure. I mean, I don't understand how I don't see no shoestring hanging nobody. Nah.
Wallace personally authorized expedited cremation, citing an inmate request despite the absence of signed documentation from Barnes. Arrangements were processed unusually quickly, with cremation scheduled for the following day. Before this could occur, however, Nina Carter intervened. Following Barnes's earlier instructions, Carter retrieved a sealed envelope hidden in their cell. On August 12th, she managed to slip it into outgoing mail. The envelope was addressed to Tasha Mayfield, a licensed private investigator based in Madison, Wisconsin. Mayfield, age 37, was a former police officer who had left law enforcement after conflicts over internal corruption cases. At the time, she operated independently, specializing in whistleblower and accountability investigations. The envelope contained critical evidence. Inside were scanned pages of Barnes's journal, showing detailed records of Wallace's visits, their physical encounters, and his personal disclosures. Photographs taken inside Wallace's office were included, clearly placing him with Barnes in restricted areas. A USB drive accompanied the material, containing audio files of conversations referencing personal matters between the warden and the inmate. Together, the materials represented comprehensive documentation of custodial misconduct and supported Barnes's earlier warnings to Wallace. When Mayfield received the package on August 15th, she immediately recognized its significance. The documentation presented not only proof of sexual misconduct, but also evidence contradicting the official suicide ruling. On August 15, 2017, private investigator Tasha Mayfield received the sealed envelopes sent by Nina Carter. Inside were scanned pages from Barnes's journal, photographs placing her with Warden Wallace in restricted spaces, and a USB drive containing audio recordings. The material established a timeline of misconduct and suggested her death had not been voluntary. Mayfield, operating independently and outside the Department of Corrections, began.
Shit, maybe it is real. They got surveillance footage and all that.
Began her own investigation immediately. Her first step was verification. She contacted Dr. Malik Thompson, the facility's medical director. Thompson confirmed that Barnes had been under his care and that her HIV-positive status was documented in medical records. He admitted to issuing 2 written warnings to Wallace, both ignored. Thompson also acknowledged that Wallace had overruled medical advisories on multiple occasions, prioritizing his own judgment over health protocols. This testimony provided external corroboration of Barnes's written notes. Mayfield then sought a second opinion on the official cause of death. She commissioned an independent forensic pathologist, Dr. Ellen Grady, to review autopsy materials. Grady.
Look, it's a she going hard for the lady, and the expert she hired was a female. She know what she doing.
His analysis identified bruising around the wrists, abrasions consistent with restraint, and pressure marks on the neck inconsistent with self-hanging. The conclusion was that the injuries indicated manual strangulation rather than suicide. This professional assessment directly contradicted the Department of Corrections' official report. With corroborating medical evidence, Mayfield assembled a case file. In September 2017, she discreetly provided excerpts of Barnes's journal and the independent autopsy findings to a local reporter in Madison. Publication of the material forced the Wisconsin Department of Justice to announce a formal reinvestigation. At that point, Warden Wallace was placed on administrative suspension. Internal sources indicated he attempted to avoid public attention by relocating to a relative's residence in Rockford, Illinois. His absence coincided with the initiation of formal questioning of Deputy Warden Raymond Deal. During interviews conducted by state investigators, Deal was confronted with physical evidence. Forensic examination showed the shoelace used on Barnes matched the standard issue of his own correctional boots. Additionally, internal GPS tracking of staff radios confirmed his presence in the restricted hallway outside the quiet cell during the period when surveillance cameras failed. When pressed with this evidence, Deal admitted involvement. He confessed that he had assaulted Barnes and strangled her with the shoelace, claiming it was done under pressure to protect the institution. In exchange for cooperation, prosecutors offered a reduced sentence. Deal implicated Wallace directly, stating that the warden observed the killing from behind a partition and authorized the cover story of suicide. On October 12, 2017, Wallace was arrested in Rockford without resistance. He was extradited to Wisconsin and charged with first-degree intentional homicide, custodial sexual misconduct, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. The Department of Justice released limited statements confirming the charges but withheld details pending trial. Further revelations emerged in late November. A forensic document examiner authenticated Barnes's journal and verified that her handwriting was consistent throughout. Separate testing traced her HIV diagnosis back to a rape kit collected in Alabama in 2015. That kit had remained unprocessed until cross-referenced during the Wisconsin investigation. DNA matched Nathaniel Briggs,
Let's do it real quick though. He knew it was he just said, I want trouble. That's crazy. Now, the rest of the story, that it would have made sense maybe had he been dealing with her and not known. But the fact that he knew, he is through.
former police officer dismissed from service in 2016 for unrelated misconduct. Briggs was arrested in Birmingham, Alabama, and charged with felony sexual assault and intentional transmission of a communicable disease. His case added a significant dimension. Barnes's original victimization had been documented years earlier, but
the law just did her bad on the streets, gave her that and then in the system. That's crazy.
Left unaddressed by the system. Trial proceedings for Wallace and Deal began in early 2018 in Milwaukee County Court. Nina Carter testified under immunity. On the stand, she read directly from a note Barnes had prepared. "I didn't come here to die. I came here to be heard." The statement became central to the prosecution's argument that Barnes anticipated retaliation and took steps to ensure her story would survive. Prosecutors presented journal entries, photographs, and audio recordings from the USB drive. The medical evidence provided by Dr. Grady was admitted, contradicting the original autopsy report. The verdicts were decisive. Wallace was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Deal received a 20-year sentence as part of his plea agreement. Briggs, tried separately in Alabama, was sentenced to 30 years in state prison. Each conviction closed a branch of the broader case, linking institutional corruption, custodial misconduct, and an earlier unsolved assault. In the aftermath, Dr. Thompson resigned from his position within the Department of Corrections. He later established a medical clinic in Milwaukee specializing in care for HIV-positive patients and advocating for prison health reform. Nina Carter, due to her cooperation and role in preserving Barnes's evidence, was transferred to a lower security facility in Minnesota and had her sentence reduced. Jalisa Barnes was buried through state arrangements in Milwaukee. She received no headstone, only a numbered marker in a municipal lot.
Damn, that's a fame beat.
I go by the name of G5 like this. We getting rich off beats.
No matter what you do in life, whether doing wrong or doing right, make sure you do it right. My big brother doing life. No matter what you do in life, doing wrong or doing right, make sure you do it right. My big homie doing life.
When you left, your second was so young. On the set, I stay checking on your son. He banging, hate it, but I can't trip. Front hood Compton, at least cuz playing crib. Solid, strong, feel like you still with me. You can ask him, I still keep that still with me. Can't control him, we'll try to guide him, provide him with game. Keep it real when you ride him. The money, violence, the thrill inside them. Sound familiar? Yeah, a lot familiar inside them. It's in his jeans to stay papered up. He BG, real clean and tapered up. Got him on what his granny and his mother need. Bleed and ride for him just like your other seed. Never dumb, you know I got a head on me. And I got cuz on the dead homies.
No matter what you do in life, whether doing wrong or doing right, make sure you do it right. My big brother doing life. No matter what you do in life, doing wrong or doing right, make sure you do it right. My big homie doing life.
Told the big homie I had him. Love him but barely know him. I could only imagine. Probably 21 on him. Whoop on him in Madden. Then roll up a fat one and show him what's happening. Teach him tactics to get it on his own too. Few tricks of the trade you turned the nigga on to. My behind him in the club, he be on too. My word, one thing you can hold on to. Love you, bro. Just like D say, me and Catman smoke big kush on your C-day. He fit right in with the click on some G shit on daddy. That's who they finna find me with. Golden gloves, certified mitt hands on the land. Knock out like hitmans. Big bands, young nigga got a head on him. And I got cuz on the dead homies.
No matter what you do in life, whether doing wrong or doing right, make sure you do it right. My big brother doing life. No matter what you do in life, doing wrong or doing right, make sure you do it right. My big homie doing life.
Snakewood and that Hustle. Big shout out to SPI, Spotter Low. You know I'm in the black box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.
It's the homie cook-up boss, goddammit, Cub Low. And y'all tuning in to the Wake and Bake show with goddammit the homeboy Spider Low.
Here with SPI, the realest nigga in LA.
Spider this bitch!
Spider Low, Spider Low, nigga.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
So Spider looks at me because we go back to the juvenile side of the county.
What the?
Spider Low. Spider Low.
Shout out to SPI, that motherfucking nigga.
Spider Low, Wake and Bake. Better keep it Google, nigga.
Loke is in LA somewhere doing what he's doing.
In the words of Spider Loke on my mama's mama.
Spider Loke's gear. This is Bay Mac.
Nate Blood, C-Mac. Shout out my Loke, Spider Loke, huh? Nate Blood, on hood. It's a beautiful world. You fight me? Fight, crap.
Point blank, through no subliminal dissing. When I listen, I can tell you never been on no mission. Sticking to the script, don't care if I offend you. Neighborhood crib, the marathon
I overlook my
continue.
competition, never seeing them. I done trained my mind that I'm going. You could tell by how I walk, talk, I'm a boss. A east side millionaire, homie, what you thought? My life is a movie. They can't get close to me. They mad cause they can't be. I'm everything that they wanna be, yeah.
You are now in the black box. Whoa. With Spider Loke, Most Easty, aka BJ Keyway, and the Google Gang.
Let's go!
Hit that video on your screen. It's only one, not even a hard choice. YouTube said you'll love it. They picked it just for you. Oh, my mama. Cheated.